replay and you don't know me, my name is Csabi. I'm a messaging and communication coach for purpose driven coaches, mentors, and guides to really help them create content that doesn't just live on a platform like here on Substack, but helps people move towards the solution that they have, their unique blend of skills, gifts, and passions in everything they are creating their business for, they're building their business for. And I want to talk about storytelling because what I've seen so many times on my own creator journey as well is that I love telling stories. And, everyone is all about storytelling is the new like fad, right? Or it's the new thing. It's a really powerful way to connect. It builds trust, and you can also use it to find clients for you. And if I look back at this 6-year creator journey that I'm on, the first few years when I was really trying to find my voice through stories, what I realized was that I was unintentionally, as a business owner, using stories to build an audience and not build an audience that would essentially then become potential clients. So, what we need to always realize, and I'm not saying that every single one of our content pieces need to be about like addressing clients or building our business as well. We get to use our content as a creative outlet. But what I see a difference between what a follower or a subscriber is interested in as some sort of an entertainment, because let's face it, whether we like it or not, people love talking about how much depth they can see here on Substack. They can see how many people they get to connect with. That's still at the level of consumption. And any business owner who is a coach, who is a transformational worker, a healer, a mentor, we know how much value there is when they are inside our containers. And what I wanted to mention is the 3 most important elements that I included in the past few years through a lot of trial and error that then turned some of my stories into my best ideal client, committed, soul-aligned client magnet. And when I mean magnet, creating stories or telling stories that don't just help you build an audience where people get to consume your content and you know how much more those people that you could help would benefit from the transformation inside your containers. How you could shift your stories into more of a client magnet, more of a conversion tool. When I say conversion, I try to avoid a lot of the like heavy business vocabulary here, but simply getting people one step closer to considering buying from you that translate the transformation that they already want. Never ever will I ever encourage anyone, nor have I ever convinced or forced or coerced or I don't know anyone into paying into my programs, or what it was, a mastermind or a course. What I noticed was that what a client was interested in, the type of stories, tended to be different from what a follower, a subscriber, or just a casual email subscriber was reading or was interested in. And the first thing was that really helped me, and people are going to be sick of hearing me saying this. I'm going to say this until I'm blue in the face. The first and most important part of any client magnet story, any conversion story, and I'm going to talk about a lot more about this inside the A Story to Sell Your Ass Off workshop, which is coming up next Wednesday. I'm going to talk a bit more about this a bit later, was that the stories don't really speak to the type of person who's just a few steps away from that, what we call I'm done moment, when they reach out and they want to work with you. And men, like many times people come to me and even in the DMs, sometimes we have chats when people join our membership. We always look at, so who is your current content speaking to? Who is your website speaking to? Can the type of person that you are speaking to recognize themselves in you in a first few lines? Because what we need to really understand when it comes to creating content that's not just a pure purpose of self-expression, but for self-expression for the purpose of building trust, not just with ourselves, but the three different trust factors we need so the client essentially buys from us, is that what we need to really learn is how not just to say things, how not just to write things. That's what a lot of people care about. They just want to write whatever they want. They want to say whatever they want. And that is the first, biggest, most destructive business strategy or approach to business because communication starts with the receiver. There is a reason in this live title I'm very specific about what I'm going to talk about, what results I'm going to be sharing, and who I'm speaking to as well. I'm not speaking to the heart-centered coach who's just like here to share all the free stuff and then somehow trusting the universe, everything comes back to them, because that is not a business strategy. And no one could employ a team of a few people when they depend on that type of business strategy. I'm not talking to somebody who just like, here, how do I get the next client? I'm speaking to that purpose-driven, mission-led, impact-focused, they're all the same, coach, mentor, or guide who really wants to make a difference beyond just the free content that they share by essentially building their business, using their stories, among other things as well. Mostly the truth tellers who really are here because they know they have a mission. They know that there is something their people in their space have been misled into believing, and that they just want to come here and make sure that the right people wake up, they get the transformation that they already want from somebody who actually cares more than just the money that they charge or the money that the client pays. And I'm always very specific about this. Even I myself don't consider myself a creator. I always say, yes, I consider myself a breakthrough alchemist, as we call ourselves. We have this free community. If you haven't joined yet and you feel called, feel free to check out. There is a link on the top of my profile. Or I can also talk about how I am a belief architect or a belief engineer, because all of these things are how I function. And I never really pay attention to any of the content pieces out there that speak to creators. And if you notice the type of content that you stop to scroll at, they tend to be the ones where they speak to either the things you identify as. Maybe you're a dad in your 30s. Maybe you are a solopreneur. Perhaps you're an avid like ski jumper. So identity, really bringing in the type of person you're speaking to and what is on their current, well, what's the best way to say it? What is in their attention right now? What occupies attention in their mind right now is one of the most powerful ways you could bring the right people into your world. And I'm speaking about any short form video, any note, any sort of title, a headline on a sales page, or anything else. People need to recognize themselves and see, is this speaking to me? They're going to be asking that question as well. So anytime we want to make sure that we are writing to a particular potential client, and you want to use that story to essentially help people see, how do you help with the transformation that they already want? Let's get really clear on that ideal client. And this tends to be something that I hear a lot of people say, I don't know yet. I don't know who I could help. I haven't decided yet who my ideal client is, or when they decided who their ideal client is, the description or how it comes across in their content seems to be extremely vague. It's like, I can see why somebody has been, let's say, posting for about 6 months, and they've literally tried everything, right? They've posted stories, they've posted more sort of an information dump type of post as well. They might even have downloaded a bunch of like freebies on how to create content, how to write better. They try to hone in on their writing skills, and for the life of them, clients aren't reaching out. They seem to get the comments. And it all first starts with, what is that client, potential client, who is already looking for support, right? Who says, I don't want to do this alone. Fuck it. I'm done trying to figure this out myself. And I can see this guide, I can see this mentor, and I can see them walking the path with me. Those are your, what we call, power players. And you might have heard me saying that, you might have read me write that, because it's so easy for us to go into what I call the Good Samaritan mode, where we are trying to help everyone. We are here as the world's savior because we've just discovered something, we've experienced something, and we immediately want to shout to the world and say, please don't do this, don't make this mistake, because I have done it and I can help people, which is all fine. We all come here to help other people. And I think, especially Substack is a platform where everybody loves helping each other. They love supporting everyone. But what I've come to realize is that when we want to help everyone, people really don't really know who we specifically help, with what specifically we help, and it actually impacts on the type of person that comes to you, because not just because you're talking about a certain topic, because of a certain area of life, but because they have a problem that you can help them solve. Because essentially, what does it mean to run a business? It's to help people solve a problem that they already want the solution to, that they already want a transformation for. It's not trying to force people, it's not trying to like take money away from people, it's actually giving them back so much more beyond what we charge. Opportunities, freedom, a lot more agency, and so much of the other things as well. So when we don't get clear in the beginning on who is that specific person, what is on their mind right now, as in what are they looking for, what type of content might grab their attention in this like ocean of sameness, and everybody just trying to speak to them. How can we also speak to what they desire, what their values are? Because a lot of the times when people make a decision based on whether they buy, again, without all the tactics and without all this like psychological manipulation that we sometimes hear, a lot of the times that decision is value-based, identity-based, or solution-based, especially when we talk about high-ticket clients. At least this is what I have found in the past 5-6 years. So when we're able to nail some of these and infuse them into our content, the content we are sharing actually speaks to the problems that they are talking about, that occupy their mind, right? The things that they are thinking about. They are staring at the ceiling at like, I don't know, 3 a.m. in the morning. The things they call their best friends about. And also, what values do they operate by? It's going to be a lot easier to speak to the right people. The content isn't just going to be yet another content piece that gets the 10 comments, the 50 likes. It's going to be a story that also gets people into your DMs or booking calls with you as well. But we really need to start there. It's like trying to build a garden and like create the best garden ever with this luscious plants, but forgetting to check what type of like soil the seed needs. So we could keep planting the same seed into the wrong soil that we obviously may not know what type of soil it is, and then wonder why there's nothing growing. Because we've made all these, like, because we've planted all these seeds into soil that doesn't bring any yields in terms of business, in terms of revenue, in terms of impact, and helping other people open up to more opportunities as well. And we don't want to be yet another creator who stops creating because all their effort, all their hours and hours of research and trying to like tweak the words and come up with the best title and look for the perfect thumbnail, all of that effort as business owners, for let's say 6 months or even longer, sometimes years, doesn't really bring any person who we get to help beyond just our free content as, again, entrepreneurs. So we don't want to just keep on depositing and then get surprised why we experience burnout, why experience so much stress, why we don't get to build the business we want when that deposit is into a place where we don't get stuff back. And this is one of the most important things that I have learned, whether it's about abundance or it's about building a business, that you're not taking anyone's money. You're exchanging energy. And as long as you come from the belief that you could do everything in your power to build an ecosystem, a content system, eventually, a path for the right people to cross that bridge from where they are right now with their problems, with their current guilt, their fears, their insecurities. A lot of that stuff is what we talk about inside the storytelling workshop, A Story to Sell Your Ass Off, next Wednesday. We've got 8 spots left if you'd like to join. And then to cross over to the other side of the bridge, which is your paid offer. So, of course, give away as much as you can. Make sure you create some taster of what it feels like to be working with you, whether it's a let's say, a trial of your ChatGPT, what is it called, like custom GPT, or a free guide. It could be a free or even paid podcast, right? So I'm not saying we should be just focusing on being paid, but essentially charging the right people who want to work with you, who want the solution, who don't want to come up with like yet another example or excuse of why they shouldn't be doing the work. That is an exchange. And as long as we can communicate what that exchange means, we can communicate the value, selling becomes easy. Or at least simple, because we get to understand what that other person, the other side of the screen, cares about. And if you're not exactly sure what type of people you want to work with yet, first of all, just make a decision. There is no reason you should not change that decision tomorrow or a week from now, right? The people who have made who have learned the most on this journey, who have built a business that's standing on its feet, that's able to help the people that they want to help, that allows them to live the life that they want to live, spending a few hours a day serving clients, managing all the business stuff, and then spending the rest of it with whatever the fuck they want. Those people don't waste energy delaying these important decisions. Things like, who am I speaking to in content? If it's a bit uncomfortable, great, because I'm here to push you off the cliff, and that will always happen, whether it's in my content or inside any of my membership, my courses, or my mastermind as well. Because I do believe when we are able to finally bet on ourselves and say, fuck it, I'm gonna try. I have no idea if this is the type of person that I'm gonna end up working with like 5 or 10 years from now, but at least I'm gonna make that decision today. And if you're not sure yet, the best advice I always give to people who are still on the fence, besides making that decision, is speaking to yourself, let's say 5 years from now, because the chances are, if you're watching this and you got to like this like 20-minute mark, you yourself have invested hundreds, thousands of dollars in mentorship, business support, mindset, coaching, or anything else as well. And you didn't have to be begged into those places. Now, can you start assuming that if you're right into the type of person that you were, let's say 3 or 5 years ago, but you still hadn't overcome that transformation that now you're selling, you're going to have the people there ready to pay you. And you don't really need to constantly convince them or beg that they should show up for themselves. When you're able to do that, you're also able to speak with a lot more specificity, speaking to that kind of understanding of yourself 3, 5 years ago, what you went through, the exact experiences you had. I'm going to come back to this in the third part of, I think, what makes a story really powerful when it comes to converting clients. And that's actually really powerful. Somebody who can speak to their own experience of going through those darkest hours, experiencing rock bottom, and then coming back up with a lesson to spread throughout the world, with, that gives people the energy of integrity. There's going to be an extra layer on the language, on the words, that no AI content pieces, no AI storytelling or anything else. And I'm not here to like speak against AI, speak for AI. That's not the topic today. That's super powerful. When somebody is able to speak with a level of integrity that they have done something in the past that they had every reason to give up. They have every reason not to make that choice and come out better. Is that the expression? That is super powerful. And that's also going to help you not just resonate with the right people who will then trust you, because no one else in the space will be able to speak to that level of specificity and resonance and relevancy as well. And this is a skill that we get to learn. But it's also going to help you stand out in this entire ocean of creators. Everybody, well, half of people trying to procrastinate on saying something, and the other half trying to just say what they want. So get super specific and crystal clear about who that person is that you are speaking to in your content. The best if you can name it, if you can give it an identity. Like I had a student who helps analytical men. I have another student who helps professionals learning languages, or professionals presenting at work. When we can experiment with these and you really take the risk and say, I'm going to check if people would resonate with this title, with this hook on my reels, with this subject line in my emails, you're going to get the feedback. The more you try, the more you get to experiment, the more data and feedback you have. This is something my people resonate with. But again, it's less about the name. It's more about how you describe themselves, how you describe them, how you describe what they are going through, what their current life looks like, and then the life looks like that they want as well. That is a super powerful way to bridge that and basically positioning yourself as that bridge. Now, I want to move on to the second part, because when you're able to catch that, the most important thing that you could do to make selling the easiest possible is to speak to who we call ready to pay clients, who we call those power players. And again, I want to go back to that because your audience has all kinds of people, right? There are people who just like subscribe because your name was interesting. Maybe you have subscribers who just thought, I don't know, Nancy is a pretty girl, or like Simon is a handsome guy. I'm gonna just give them a follow. I'm gonna support them. I love their ideas. Um, we tend to believe that everyone in our audience actually wants the result, right? But it's rarely, very rarely the case. So you need to think about our audience as as a group of certain sections, and not all of them will be, first of all, committed to the transformation. Not all of them will actually want the result. Most people will just like say it's important for them, but don't do anything. I don't think you want to work with those people. And then not everyone will also have the means to invest. So we want to think about a person who is committed to essentially getting the results, but also wants the change. Well, is that the same thing? More or less. So I don't know if I can share my screen here. I think I can. So your power player is not the one who has all the excuses. They don't need that cushioning, that type of message that I see all across the feed, like, oh, you're not lazy. I never think about myself as lazy. If somebody writes, and I know because I am a power player, I show up, I pay. If somebody charges me 3,600, I'm gonna pay that. I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna figure it out. I always have, whether I was the brokest ever, because I don't want to waste my time within my own limitations when someone is clearly showing me their hands, right? And your power players will be exactly the same. Yes, they may not buy instantly, but they may not just automatically know that they should reach out to you in the DMs. But that doesn't mean that when you speak about certain things in your content that they care about, using their language, again, not things like you're not lazy or all this spiritual word soup of like, I'm gonna help you like reconnect with your inner Shakti and all of that. People who just want clarity. Can you demonstrate in your stories that you are a mentor, a guide, a coach who could walk me through, or who could actually hold my hand as I'm walking that path? Because that's essentially what your power players want. They're not like bathing in their own pain so much. They're not complaining too much. They might be a bit frustrated. They might like not get the results, but they have already tried. When you're able to nail that client at that stage, when they've tried everything they could, they really, really want the transformation and they're willing to invest and commit. There are people out there. Yes, there are people out there. Before you say anything, like, oh my God, there are no such people. And if you are this type of person, that's even more proof that there are people like that. And I can tell you, I have met several, and the first step was that I had to become that type of client myself as well. We all know that the first client we will have is ourselves. And then understand their awareness a few steps away from considering investing. What will have happened by that point in their life, right? What are the things they've already tried? Maybe there is I don't know, let's say an avoidantly attached lady in their 30s who has tried like marriage counseling, they've tried therapy, but none of those worked. Maybe because she didn't see their patterns. Maybe she didn't see how she functions, right? She doesn't really get to know herself besides just talking and talking like in therapy. So when I'm a relationship coach, maybe I'm using some specific frameworks. I'm able to speak in my messaging about why the stuff they have tried didn't work, why the stuff they've already bought didn't get them the results. Many people in this space, in the online space, have been burnt. They have been promised, they have been made promises that they believed they would get, and they didn't, right? They showed up, they did everything they could, they asked their questions, and they didn't get their money's worth. So they are super angry, but they are your action takers. They're the ones who are not going to be like, yeah, but what if, right? We spend so much of our time begging people to show up for their own lives that they clearly haven't, then we're going to waste a lot of our time and take away time, because time is limited, from the very people that we get to help. So your power players will be the people who will look at their problems differently. They will have their own problems, that they will have different problems. Why do you think I'm not just saying I'm going to help you get a client? Because I'm not speaking to the random population of my audience. I'm speaking to my power players, and my power players love themselves enough to say, I don't work with everyone. I work with a committed client. I work with a soul aligned client who doesn't cause me pain, who's not a pain in the ass, right? Because maybe they have already tried. Maybe they've had clients. Maybe they've been burned by just getting a client who was like paying 1,000 or something cheaper. And I know my people. I know that they want to help, but I also know that the best way they help is by becoming a filter, becoming the type of creator, the type of entrepreneur who vets their clients, who restricts their access or access to themselves. To them, I think that's what makes more sense grammatically. And those people many people look at their problems differently. They don't need advice on like how to create content. They will have access to all my content strategies. That's something I give access to all my clients, whether it's one-to-one or a membership member. But essentially, I know they just want the direction. They're ready to like churn out content pieces. They just need that guidance. They need a soundboard. They need someone who helps them make a decision faster, who sees what they could, do better, who sees their potential, essentially. Those are the type of people that you might want to be working with, that you can start focusing more on. And those people don't need a lot of inspirational fluff. They don't need a lot of how to do this or that. You could leave that for the type of audience who wants to get to know how to do something better, and that's all fine. That type of client, and this is when I'm going to shift to the third most important part, doesn't want a story where you just like show how much pain you've gone through. That doesn't mean they wouldn't read it, but that wouldn't necessarily get them into the space of like, I actually see this mentor as somebody that could pay like $3,000 to, and they could walk me and hold my hand as I'm walking that path that they are offering. That type of client currently isn't getting the results because of something underneath. And many times it's because what they believe to be the solution. And that's the reason they tried therapy. They thought, oh, I'm just going to like sit down with someone in an armchair and just talk about my problems, and then I'm going to overcome them. They might think, oh, so it's all mindset. I'm just going to like read Carol Dweck's book and a bunch of other books about mindset. I'm going to like suddenly change my mindset about these things, right? But if anybody knows about avoidant attachment, I know because I was on the receiving end of it as an anxiously attached or former anxiously attached. That's maybe for another story. What they actually need, or something that they could need, is someone who shows them their patterns, someone who's able to guide them at the moment when they're pulling back, when they talk themselves out of not apologizing, when there are those crucial moments where they would need to make a decision towards a more securely attached way of showing up. It's just one example of many. But your power players right now, they would love a story where they see not just the pain you've gone through, but what you've discovered, a shift that happened that made you change everything and then get the results that you wanted. It could also be a client as well. So your power player clients need a perspective shift. They need to be seen, they need to be shown a simple, different way of thinking without telling them that they are wrong. We're trying to come across as like, I know what you have to do, because obviously no one really wants to believe something that they haven't been introduced or invited to believe first. And that is essentially the 7-step storytelling framework that I'm teaching inside A Story to Sell Your Ass Off on Wednesday as well. It's designed so that you can make it easier for yourself to express yourself, because it's got all kinds of formula. It's got all kinds of support, basically a crutch that you could use so you could articulate your message a lot clearer and tell your story a lot clearer, but also in a sequence that allows them to not just feel safe with you and trust you, but also learn to trust themselves, which is where all sales, which is what makes or breaks all sales. And I want to spend the rest of the life today talking about this, because so many creators focus so much on, I'm going to show up as a person who can be trusted. I want to show up as someone who wants to help other people. And the reason we want to get really clear on that type of person who we are writing stories to, who we are selling to, is because if that person doesn't trust themselves, reaching out and trust our process that we are promoting, that we are talking about, there is not going to be sale. It's like you trust multiple people in your life. Maybe a celebrity, maybe someone who you know to be trustworthy, but you may not have bought from them because they may not have the course that you want, or simply because you haven't trusted yourself with that process. And your ideal client, your power play clients, think the same way as well. They have an urgent problem. There's no need to like force urgency or fake urgency or anything. That's something we focus a lot on with my students as well, so that our content doesn't feel manipulative. It simply creates an opportunity where people see that what you've gone through, like basically they are shown that how you think or how you believe things, the things you've discovered, are the things that are likely to help them with the transformation they already want, and then get the invitation. And as long as you're including 3 of these things, then in your next storytelling content piece, you're going to be a lot more likely to attract those aligned, ideal, committed clients, simply because your story no longer just shares, oh, look how much pain I've gone through, vulnerability. It's amazing. It's great. I love reading stories like that. But to a client, they also want to see, oh, so you had that choice. You were at that fork in the road where you could have given up. You could have unalived yourself. You could have chosen otherwise. You could have stayed in that toxic relationship. You could have stayed in a job, but you didn't. And that's the moment when someone could say, oh, so I'm actually at that same fork as well. And now I've seen someone who's shown up for herself, for himself. You demonstrate in your story that you, just like anyone, had your own doubts, had your own insecurities, and despite everything, all the odds against you, you still decided to step up and make a different decision and realize something different. And when your stories, this is why we call this disruptive storytelling, when your stories communicate that, your ideal client doesn't even have to be like, what's the word, persuaded into buying from you. They will see what's possible for them. And I'm not saying your first story is going to like immediately get like 5 ideal clients into your inbox. You obviously want to focus on building an audience, the right audience that, through content that speaks to their identity. But we also want to make sure that our stories don't just build an audience. Because I don't know about you, but if you are still here and you are an entrepreneur, you don't just want an audience, and you're not here to perform for an audience. It's great to have people that we get to connect with, and I love connecting with my audience. But I also know that I'm not a performer. I'm not an influencer. I'm a principled business owner. And if anyone decides to only consume from me, that's all fine. I'm going to show up. I've shown up on these lives every single week. I've provided tons of value in the past about 9 months since I started Substack. But I'm also running a business, and it's in my interest and in my power players that they get the result they want. So I want you to marinate in what I've shared, and like feel free to check, like rewatch the whole replay as well, because this is a super powerful concept to kind of think about. That you don't just want to like write a story to anyone, and stories that are about like raw motivation of like, let's just like show up because it's so important. Your power players, the smallest percentage sometimes in our audience, but they are the most valuable in terms of the revenue they could bring into your business, the energy they come with, their attitude as well. And how does my power player, that committed client who has the money, who has the investment, the means to invest, how do they look at their problem? What is their desire, as opposed to the desire of like everyone in my audience, the average person? When you share stories to that person, to that breaking point, when they are about to arrive at that wall that is not a wall, it's a cliff, and they have to essentially take that leap of faith, and you show them in your story not just the pain, but also that you had all the reasons to give up, that everything was against, like you were there and you could have made a choice and stay. You could have played smaller, and you still decided to take a bet on yourself. That is essentially so many times the missing piece in stories that empower a potential client to reach out to you and want to be working with you as well. I mentioned this in my latest article as well, so you could like have a look, see. I dedicated that entire article to that whole concept, the decision point, that fork, when you have to make that choice. Choice bind is a really powerful way to get people to realize you're making a choice. You're making a choice today of either continuing to consume and still think you don't have the results and get frustrated about it, or you get to make the choice and say, yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, I have all the reasons to give up, but I'm going to do that. And when you're able to infuse that decision point into your content, speaking to that type of person who is a potential client, who is a power player at that stage, when they are already a few steps away from investing in a transformation, and you talk about that decision point, the different choices you had, the odds, you are going to be able to get those people what you want them to do, whether it's booking a call with you, asking questions about your services. You're positioning yourself as a principled business owner, the type of person who's not just here to share free content. They are here to make a real difference with whatever lights them up and whatever their purpose is. So I'm going to go a lot deeper into this and the entire 7-step framework inside the workshop, starting at, I think it's 6 p.m. on Wednesday. And it's a 2-part workshop so that you get all the support and the handshaking, the hand holding as well to implement. So if you want to create stories and share content that speaks to your ideal client, that attracts a tribe of clients who are value aligned, soul aligned. They would light you up working with. And if you want to make sure that you actually see yourself in those stories and you're able to share them confidently without worrying about how many people are going to judge me when I share this, and show up with conviction behind that story so that the right people see the value in the coaching, the mentorship, the guidance, or anything else that you're selling without you having to straight up sell, right? Because stories are really powerful. We've got 8 spots left, and you could still join us and get almost all the bonuses if you're joining before midnight tomorrow. And then we'll have a live workshop. Well, you will see what exactly to infuse your stories with so they resonate with the audience, they bring them closer to your world, and also bring them closer to buying from you. And then the second implementation workshop, which is going to be a week after, but you can check the dates on the page, where you'll be able to walk away with an entire 7-step story framework and a story that you could post already that is designed to attract soul aligned clients that would light you up working with. So if you're interested in that, check out the latest post or just message me the word story, and I'm going to share you all the details. I can talk about whether it's a great fit for you at this right stage or not. So thank you so much for watching. If you're watching the replay as well, I appreciate you, and just keep sharing those stories because you have a mission. And even though maybe every bone inside of you right now is like, I still haven't got clear on who my ideal client is, I can almost guarantee, I don't guarantee anything, I can almost guarantee that if you lean into the discomfort and actually decide that you are here, so you empower the people already ready and just a few steps away from saying yes to that transformation, you're going to feel a lot lighter, worry a lot less about who is reaching out, who isn't reaching out, because you're speaking a different language. And you're also going to be able to make a difference on those people's lives because you no longer waste your time trying to convince the people who have all the reasons to stay where they are. And that doesn't mean some of those people would never become clients, but that's not a business strategy that's sustainable. So again, thank you so much for watching this, whether live or in the form of a replay, and can't wait to see you guys either inside the workshop, it's just $49, or on somewhere on the feed as well. Keep sharing those stories and trust that when you really show people what it felt like to make those hard choices, you're going to get those people into your DMs. So thank you so much again. Have a beautiful start of the week.